Hello and welcome to another episode of the Art of Human Care. Dr. Tetteh presents the Art of Human Care. And today our episode will be Dr. Tetteh presents the Art of Human Care with Kim ONeill. Kim ONeill has been so gracious to join us today and accept my kind invitation to share her incredible story, her great work, and how she applies the principles of the art of human care to her daily being and all that she does. And you're going to learn so much about her work and the great things that she's doing in the world and how she's moving and improving people's lives and advancing things in people's lives in terms of their goal setting and all the incredible things that I think her work does that embodies the principles of the art of human care, but more importantly, makes the world a better place. So Kim has been a great fan of the Art of Human Care book series and has given me so much love with her incredible platform and sharing the work that I do with her audience. And it was a treat and an honor to have her, visit with us. So Kim is an inspirational host of the Every Day is a New Day show. It's an amazing show. I've been on it twice. It's so great. She's a 3-time Amazon best-selling author, twice certified transformational coach. She has clients and folks in her community that she's absolutely helped transform their lives. She specializes in authentic confidence and interview skills and the law of attraction. She's a Reiki master, former crime analyst. She has an incredible background, and the creator of Let Your Light Shine movement, which was launched in March of 2021. And I got to see some of that great work on social media. It's really making an impact and a difference in people's lives, especially during this really tumultuous and stressful time of pandemic and our recovery and emergence from that. And she often works with spiritually curious professionals who feel unfulfilled, coaching them into cultivating the courage, confidence, and clarity to shine their light and move forward in ways that are meaningful to them. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say you are going to see her light not only shine in this episode, but it's going to shine brilliantly as you hear all the things that she does. Kim believes that when you shine, our world shines that much brighter. Let your light shine, and we're gonna experience the brightness and the brilliance of Kim here right away. I will say this, I told Kim just before we started, I said I was going to add something extra to her her intro. There's a line in one of the books in the Art of Human Care series that I sort of adopted as most great artists do. They steal other work from other great artists, and I was inspired by Sam Cooke. Those of you know the famous singer Sam Cooke. And he has a line in one of his songs that it says, where there's light, there's hope. And Kim brings incredible light to the world. And by doing so, she brings us incredible hope, everlasting hope. And with hope, there's always the power to do amazing things, no matter how dark the day may seem. So with that introduction, Kim, thank you for joining us today. I want to welcome you to the Art of Human Care Presents, and I'm so honored to have you as a guest. For those of us that may not know you as well, what is it that you do that you spend the majority of your time doing beyond all of the stuff that I talked about here in your incredible bio that brings you fulfillment and joy, kind of like in your everyday kind of life?
Okay, so first off, thank you for having me here, Dr. Tetteh. It's an honor to be on your show. And I love that you brought the light into it already, because yes, that is playing a massive role in how I'm viewing just the work that I'm carrying forward, and also just deep within the work that I aim to connect with other people, and I want them to be able to see their own light and know that there's hope regardless of any form of darkness. And so and one of the ways that I'm going to be able to answer your question is actually through a word that you used in your intro, and it was, you said something about me through my being. And I think that is a big piece of all of this. So all the work that we do is nothing if we aren't fully being that light, being aligned with who we are. And so as you ask me, what am I doing these days that is helping me to feel fulfilled and I forget the rest of your question now, but to really be in that space, I would say a lot of the work I do, yes, I do a lot of external work. I have my show, my coaching and things that I do out in the world. But a big piece of it is that being piece. So there's, right alongside all the external work I do is like, I got to make sure that I'm still being present with myself, that I'm continuing to do my own work, that I am connecting with, what does it mean to be, aligned with who I authentically am so that I can effectively do the work that I feel called to do. So I share that because I think that that's a journey a lot of people are on these days, and it can be so easy to overlook that. So that's how I would answer your question.
No, absolutely. The question was really aimed at, letting the audience see kind of like what you do on a day-to-day basis, what brings you to joy. And you like just having that alignment and really kind of taking care of self to some extent so that you can be that light and that hope and take care of others.
Exactly. Yes, absolutely. It's not enough to just do without the being aspect. I really think that the question of how does what I do fulfill me? Well, it fulfills me because I'm tuned in to who I'm being and to what's going on within me. And so in that space, on the surface, if we just leave it there, it could sound like a very selfish, self-focused thing. But the value of it, number one, we need that for ourselves to be in tune and aware of what's going on with ourselves. But in that self-awareness and beingness of ourselves, taking care of ourselves, we're now actually more heart open and able to be in tune with others and connect with them, serve them, hear what's not being said, and all of that kind of stuff. So, I know maybe we've kind of gone a little further than what you were intending to open up with, but this is how I see everything connects.
Because what you, I think, have just shared with the audience, and I know this from just having the great opportunity to visit with you on your show and learn about your work through what you're doing now, what you've done in the past, and see the great interviews that you've had. I believe like your purpose is embodied in what you just said, and that's sort of like that first principle of the art of human care. So it was kind of a roundabout way of getting to you to, share what your purpose is. And I think that's what you start with, which is, being present and being yourself and that authentic self. But that gives you, I believe, like all the energy and all that you need to be that light for others. I hope I got that right.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I love the principles of your book and the art of human care, purpose, partnership, personalization, that, the deeper I look into these things, I totally see how they apply to, of course, everything we do externally, but also individually on that personal level. And so when I think of the purpose behind what I do, I think of, the work that I do is my coaching, is hosting my show, is writing work that I do, and those kinds of things. And the purpose behind that is, well, because, I aim to, like you were talking about, inspire and uplift and bring more light to the world. And what that links to is the purpose within me. If I'm going to be that person aiming to bring those things to the world, then the question a lot of people find themselves asking is, well, then who am I to do that? So what that brings is now, okay, my personal purpose and sense of self-worth. So am I connected to that sense of self-worth and really connected to that? And when I am, then that elicits a stronger, grounded confidence that says, absolutely, absolutely. I'm talking about myself, and this speaks for everybody out there in the world. Everyone is worthy to be the light that they're meant to be here in the world and bring their unique gifts to the world. So your three principles in the art of human care, I think are, they go very deep, and they speak to each individual on that personal level, as well as, externally into everything they do out in the world as well. And I see that with all of them: purpose, partnership, and personalization. So yeah, that's awesome.
And this movement that you have, really brought to fruition, sort of earlier this year, the Let Your Light Shine movement. It's definitely an embodiment of all the things you just said, right? It's your purpose for now. How did that come about? What inspired you to say, this is going to be the theme, this is what I'm going to go with, and I'm going to bring it out to the world at this particular time? What was the motivation for that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking. A lot of the work that I do, and it's so funny because I never saw this coming years ago, but it all links back to this being on a spiritual journey and what that means and looks like for each person. And so what I have found is as each person is learning how to be more confident in who they are and the gifts that they bring to the world, a lot of it requires them to go within and start to tune into, what is their intuition telling them and what is their next right move? Not what does the world say is right for them, but what is your next right move? And when you're tuned into what that looks like for you, then you start to realize, oh my goodness, this is bigger than I am. And so I share that because it started with in 2020, I ended up realizing while a lot of people were pausing, and that made total sense in so many ways, I actually was feeling invigorated and like, okay, what's next? And we're now going to do, the Every Day is a New Day Rise and Shine series. So I just kind of like kept expanding on my show and really wanting to support people and connecting to this deeper sense of there is always hope, regardless of what's going on in the world. Your light cannot be dimmed if you don't allow it to be dimmed. And so if we're not able to see as clearly the connection that we have with the outer world and things are starting to get darker, then go within because that's where your deeper answers are. And so I hope this is making sense with everyone listening today. But I say that because at the very end of 2020, as I was closing out this Rise and Shine series and just sending out these reminders to people, tune into like, what is it that you desire? What's your vision? And connect with that and bring that forward and all of that. I then I said, okay, what is next for the Every Day is a New Day show? And I got so clearly the answer of movement, the word movement. And I know that it didn't come from me because I don't typically think in that term. I mean, I hope that my work has a big positive impact on the world. And I've never considered using the word movement and alongside what I do. So I got the word movement and it felt really big. And I started getting all these insights and ideas and, this is what I could do. And this, at first it was going to be called the This Is Who I Am movement because I just felt that deep, what is that? I guess, calling.
Yeah. It's like the calling.
Exactly. Yes, that's exactly it. I felt that this deep sense of calling that I feel like the world is really calling out for in many ways too, that really deeply desiring to be seen for who they authentically are. And so initially it was going to be called This Is Who I Am movement. And then somewhere along the way, it sort of evolved as I was putting things together and realizing, okay, if I'm going to put out there, Kim's launching a movement, there was like, well, Kim's got to do something first because I was like, I got to get okay with that. So that was some of the progression of it. So it evolved from This Is Who I Am to Let Your Light Shine. That just felt so right. And then the timing, and I put some pieces into place and I put it out there. And now, so now there's more work to be done, but I'm glad that it's out there and that it has deeply resonated with a lot of people. And, goal is to reach 1 million+ people who are just feeling so much alignment and self-belief in who they are so that they can be their own unique, authentic light. I don't believe there are no two identical lights. And that right there tells every individual that your light, it doesn't matter if it looks similar to someone else's, it's never going to be exactly the same as someone else's. And that's what tells you that you are worthy and that your light is meant to be here. And that was maybe a Freudian slip. Your life has inherent purpose.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's amazing. So, it's interesting that you came up with this sort of at the end of 2020, and
Yeah.
you use that word, that word of movement, right? That's like it's not only profound, it's prophetic, right? Because you use the word movement at a time when we were all being told to stay put, like don't go anywhere, just kind of like in mentally, physically, we're all kind of sheltered in place, and we all wanted to move. But you like took it to the next level and you said, no, let's not only move, but let's start a movement. And if you think about like the great turning points in the world, right? For as long as we've had humankind, there's been this movement, right? There's been the movement of migration of massive amounts of people to another place, a movement that was engendered because of unrest or economic tumult or drought or famine, and then there was a movement to get to a better place. There's a political movement to get someplace else. There's a social movement to bring us to a different place. And we saw a lot of different kinds of things in 2020. We continue to see them in 2021 that do, I think, bring a lot of despair. So to have a movement and one that says at its central core that this movement is about helping you individually, all individuals, find their light. That's like so powerful. That's amazing. How do you help people personalize that story, and how do they internally say, all right, I'm with this movement now, as you clearly are. I'm going to begin this movement. How do you get people to understand how they can personalize this movement for themselves? Kind of like bring that other principle in. But that's like something that you've already inherently discovered, because you just said every person has their own unique light. How do you help them discover that unique light?
That is such a great question, and thank you for that. And this, I'll be honest, truthfully, this is something that I am still tuning into to discover and explore what are the next steps for this movement. I don't want to, I don't necessarily believe that I have all the answers. I believe that I'm receiving the answers and the guidance as it comes through, because this is, for me, a message that wanted to come through me, but I don't really believe that this is Kim's message. I mean, this is my message, right? We're all humans on earth here. This is Kim's message, sure. But this came from something much bigger through me that I literally had to prepare myself for. And I think that many people have experiences like that. I would even say, I don't, maybe possibly you can relate to that. Just you bringing forth your work in the world. I think that when we feel so deeply passionate about something, it's because there's something much greater and bigger beyond it. So as you ask that question, how do I help them connect to it? The answer that's coming to mind is that it truly is a process. And so as I brought this forth, before I shared it publicly and launched it, I shared it with a good handful of people that I'm connected to that I felt would already resonate with it. And sure enough, they did. They said, "Oh, Kim, I love this. I'm on board." And they're like, "Yes, I'm joining the movement. I'm there." And things just started going, snowballing from there. And then I noticed as time has moved on, like, oh, not everyone has quite the same reaction to it. And some people, for whatever reason, they don't connect to it at all immediately. And that's fine. There's nothing about this that is, that has behind it any sense of force or requiring people to do anything that does not feel organic, authentic for them.
Right.
But for those people who are hearing the message of let your light shine, there's this third group of people. So there's the people that are automatically like, you don't need to say another word, Kim, I'm on board, I'm there. Then there's the people that are like, I don't get it. And okay, that's fine. And then there's the group of people in the middle, and I'm starting to see and sense that this might be the largest group of people that the movement is actually for. It's the people who have one foot in knowing what their light is, what that looks like, what that feels like, and the value of it in the world. And the other foot in, nope, it's not safe. It's not okay. I don't have permission. I don't have permission to shine my light. I'm not worthy enough, whatever it may be. And so, I would call that one foot in the light and one foot still in the darkness. And I would like to just also kind of describe the darkness as what's not actually true, what's false, what are the limiting beliefs, the things that we've told ourselves or allowed ourselves to believe that are holding us back. And I so deeply believe that there are so many people who are just ready and eager and calling out to be launched into the light, into their next level of existence in the world, so that they are authentically here to be. So when you ask me, how do I get people there? Number one, it's by my commitment to the movement. It's by me recognizing that it is a process, by allowing people to be in their process, and to continue to evolve with the movement as I see what the next iteration is going to look like, and how are we going to connect with people now. And so, at our recording today, the movement's only existed for a few months, and so still right there in that process space. But I'm committed to it, and this this will be a message that I carry on for years, and however long it takes a person who is feeling that calling of, I'm ready to bring this foot that's over here finally in alignment with this one, so I can feel more grounded and know it's safe to be in my light. Then you know what? That's okay. I'm still going to be here sharing the movement, and I look forward to when they're ready to join and
right.
come on board.
Let me ask you something. That's incredible, and I could see what you observed, right? Because you can tell, like, when someone is in that alignment and they're doing all the things that you are espousing should be done, which is let your light shine. Then you said there were a group that they're not ready yet. That's okay. It depends. That's a process, right? But then you said the vast majority are probably true, like all things. They're in the middle, right? They have one foot in the light, so to speak, and they have one foot where it's not so light. It's not so bright. And I imagine, as you have observed throughout this process that you're going through, this journey that you're taking to help everyone sort of emerge into the light, you've been able to see what stage they're in based on different things that you learn about them. Do you have any examples of someone that has been sort of, in the sort of the majority of that class, where they're like, they have one foot in and they have one foot sort of not in the bright, but they have one foot in the light? They kind of have some ideas, but that really key word that you said, they don't feel like they have permission. What examples, or any examples that you have of folks that you've met throughout this time, can you share with us that could be an inspiration to others? So how did they take that feeling and move somewhere else?
That is a great question. What really comes to mind, there are a few different things that come to mind, and most specifically, speaking to your question, is actually a coaching client I'm working with right now, where that was her big thing. She is a leader in her organization. She has to speak in front of other people, but she's been there for many years. People are used to seeing her in one way. And she knows inside that's not all of who she is. She has more to give. She is here to do more. There's a level of breaking status quo that she feels called to speak to and embody. And so it really has taken some time to sit with this notion of, you know what, this is just like anything else in life, just like a baby doesn't know how to walk yet and starts to walk and stumbles, a good handful of times or several handfuls of times. And then they finally get their stability and they realize, hey, it's not so bad when I fall. That's actually not as scary as I made it out to be up here. Right. The point is that if I know I'm feeling called to take that next step, then I've got to take that next action step. Now, what does that look like for me? And then after that action step, I'm going to take another action step. I'm going to take another action step. And I'm going to continue to practice what it means to move forward, to exercise, this sense of being who I am. I mean, there's a lot of deep questions that get asked when we're speaking to a person shining their light and being who they authentically are. You've got to, who am I? What does it mean to be who I am? Am I being that right now? And how am I not? And if I'm not, then what's one way that I can? And so it's this whole journey of moving from having to really muster a lot of courage to take that next action step, and feeling a degree, this is what I noticed for a lot of people, but may not be for everybody, muster a lot of courage because there's a lot of fear and darkness around what they're doing. And the more they exercise the courage and taking those action steps, they realize, wait a second, this actually isn't as scary. And there's a lot of people who are on my side. I don't have to do this alone. And that courage now becomes more like excitement. And, ooh, what am I going to do next now? What's the next new thing I'm going to branch out on? So you ask me, stories. First thing that came to mind was my client. And I would just also say, in specifically speaking to the movement, there have been so far, again, it's only a few months old at the moment, but one of the first thing that really stood out to me was someone that I think in my mind already completely embodies this message of shining her light so confidently, so beautifully, putting herself out there, breaking, social norms, and being a wonderful example for people. And she told me, she said, Kim, when I heard about this movement, I was on board immediately, and I know because I could tell by her email that she sent me, she was like, yes, I'm so there. And then she also told me, oh my goodness, I had to sit with this, because even a person who already feels confident and being at their best can still feel a calling to rise to their next level. And so I share that because it can be easy to assume for the person who's feeling like they're not maybe shining at all or not feeling confident at all. It can feel easy to assume that, it's easy for these other people to be bold and say, yes, I'm going to shine my light. Yeah. And even those people have to do that inner work to get to that next level. It's just a continuous progression. So to me, I say to anybody, wherever you are on that spectrum, you're right on schedule. You aren't meant to be anywhere else. And as long as you stay present with yourself and the journey, you will continue to step into and feel more of that light. So it becomes less scary and can actually become more fun and exciting. I add just one more piece to that.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, this is great. It's great. Okay.
Thank you. I just want to say that for those who join the movement, it's real simple to join. I've got a form on the movement website that they can fill out and answer a few questions. And again, like I mentioned earlier, this isn't about someone being who they aren't. So I just want to make it clear to everyone that one thing that they may notice when they observe the social media is you'll see photos of people who have joined the movement and are choosing to say, yes, I shine and I'm owning it. And, I get to own it because they're an inspiration for other people. But you can also join the movement without being featured on social media, because there have been people who have told me, and I guess this maybe more so speaks to your question, there have been people who have told me that simply joining the movement and opting out of being featured on social media, because you don't have to, they still are gaining that sense of self-empowerment. Like, oh my gosh, I just claimed that for myself. So every step counts. And so, that's what I wanted to share.
Every step counts. I love the way you ended that. Every step counts, because, someone may be thinking, well, how do I move from the dark to the light? And you just said it. You said it very simply. It's you first of all, it's a movement. You have to move. And I think some people do get stuck, like you said, in like, well, there's stuff that I know I should be doing. There's stuff that I want to do. And I think I should be somewhere else, but I don't know how to get there. And then they just stuck. They don't do anything. But you're simply giving, I think, the recipe for success in everything you just said. Join the movement. So you join the movement, and what do you have to do when you move? You have to take a step. You have to take a step forward. So when you gotta get up from your seat and you take a step forward. And in your example of what your clients have shown you, and I think what you've observed is that one step is an action move, and that one little action gives you the confidence to say, I can take another action and another that'll bring me closer to this, this place of being in the light and letting my light shine. So I think that's just incredible. That's amazing. And, the other thing that you kind of highlighted for me when you were talking about, you had this one person, right? They're the embodiment of light shining brilliantly. And then you talk to them and they're like, well, I'm gonna get on this movement and I gotta get someplace else. And you're thinking to yourself, what are you talking about? You're like the supernova already. And they're in their mind saying, no, there's someplace else I have to go. That to me just shows how personal and how unique and how authentic everyone's journey really is, right? And you can never make an assumption. And so your observation about where you are in the spectrum is so powerful too, I think. I think that should really resonate with everyone, because everyone is going to be in their own unique sort of place and their own unique journey to make their light shine.
There is no comparison.
Forward. There's no comparison. And you're doing that. You're helping people to find that purpose, but more importantly, to take those steps to get to this place where their light is really, truly shining. So I can't help but, of course, throw this last, principle out there, which is the one of partnership, which I think, you created a partnership. You created a virtual partnership. You created a concrete partnership through starting this movement and having these folks just join, because it seems to me that all of us that join this kind of movement and join this movement specifically are becoming partners in this journey. And can you speak to that? What have you noticed? And have you noticed that this unique community that you're building, what has been the attribute of it, and what have you noticed as one of its successes? Just bringing.
Thank you for using. That's a great question. Thank you for using the word community, because that is one of that's the direction we're moving towards. That is my vision for this. I absolutely loved, there was this one person who is someone who already puts themselves out there in the world, hosts her own podcast. But she's, like all of us, she's also been on her own journey of learning how to, feel more confident and put herself out there. And immediately, as soon as she joined the movement and she felt that sense of, I'm going to use a big word that's coming up for a lot of people these days, self-validation. As soon as she joined the movement, there was a massive sense of self-validation that came through, and she has been showing up in bigger and bolder ways on social media within her community, shining her light, inspiring, and being being her unique light in the world. And so, to me, that's right there a success story, just to see that come through her. And, and it's her. I mean, it's really, the show that I host, the Every Day is a New Day show, the one theme that comes out of practically every interview is the power of choice. Regardless of our life circumstances, we always have choice. And so by making the choice to take that next step, or to simply say, you know what? Gosh, I get to choose my light for me. I get to be, I get to recognize that I am, I don't need anybody else to validate me. I am already worthy and validated. I already have permission. No one needs permission. And yet we know the value of hearing that we have permission. In the owning of that, there is just so much momentum and flourishing that can take place. So, I started to lose track of your question. I hope that answered your question.
No, it absolutely did. It's about the partnership and the community that you helped build and created. So this is amazing. So that momentum, it would seem to me, it just engenders even more force with the more people that join the movement and the more people that sort of speak to their own personal inner journey and their sort of experience with this finding the light, and then more importantly, letting it shine. It's incredible. It's incredible what you've done, what you're doing. I think the work is absolutely needed, especially in this, sort of dark time that we've been in. We've been, unfortunately, as you know, right, living through this cloud of the pandemic that doesn't even really seem that it's kind of it lifts a little bit and then it kind of comes back. And now we're again, looking at numbers. It's the middle to late summer of 2021. And this started for a lot of us, a couple years ago now, it seems, and we're still quite not entirely out of it. And then you look at what's happening across the globe and now back in our own country, where there's certain pockets where the cases are sort of on the rise again. And in that sort of context, you're still doing this important work and finding, momentum and having people still take those steps. What do you tell people that may feel like, yeah, everything that you're saying sounds great, but, there's still this darkness right now. Maybe I should wait until the pandemic is over, or maybe I should wait until next week. Maybe I should wait until school starts, or maybe I should wait till, the fall comes, or maybe I'll wait until after the summer. Like what there must be, so many people that have those questions internally. And if they were sitting in front of you and you were sharing what what you've shared so far, how would you address those concerns that they have that are keeping them from taking that next step?
That's a great question. And those are such common questions that are coming up for a lot of people these days. So I would first say, if you're feeling the call to pause because that feels healthiest for you, listen to that and honor that. However, if you're feeling, if you are pausing, if you are stopping, if you're not taking those next steps out of fear, then that's something to look at. And recognize that you are not alone, to be doing that inner work of what is this here to teach me? Because it all, to me, brings it all right back to the famous paraphrased quote, and I think it was Gandhi. I hope I get that right. Be the change. Be the change. And so, to me, that's not something that's like, hey, you over there, you go be the change. It's each of us individually be the change. And so, what is the work that anybody listening or watching us today, what have you been feeling called to do, or getting the messages to, oh, I really should start doing this, but I haven't been doing it yet. Maybe I've been avoiding it, distracting myself from it. This is the time to do that. I truly believe that this time of pause was actually intended for that. It's to give us that space to think about all those things we've spent time distracting ourselves from, avoiding, not taking time to heal, whatever it may be, and start to do those things and to move in that direction. Just be so proud of yourself for each little step that you do take and those successes, and then continue to build on them. So, we're all here to be that light and be the change.
Continue to build on it. Well, as our time is coming short, regrettably, I have to ask this question, because I asked this question of our guests, and it is, what are you reading? What are you watching? What's bringing you like greater insight, greater joy, greater fulfillment that you could share with the folks that are watching that have learned so much from our conversation here? But, obviously that activity of reading and learning is a way to get even more insight. What can you share with us?
But it's a fantastic question. And of course, I knew you were going to ask me. So I have a book that I literally just finished today, and Brene Brown's Braving the Wilderness. This is such a good, and let me read the subtitle. So it's Braving the Wilderness, the Quest for True Belonging and the Courage to Stand Alone. To me, I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm amazed that I started to read this book now. I've had this book for a few years and just started reading it. This is like a book of our times, just like yours. This is a fantastic book for people. I loved it. So.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. It's amazing. I think those of us that have books and love to read, we'll have books that have just been hanging around, right? And then something happens in the world, and you pick this book up, and you're like, where did this book come from? And you start opening it, and you read it, and it's like it is speaking to you at that very moment when you most needed it. And you're like in total receive mode. And that sounds like that's what that book has done for you. That's amazing.
It totally has, and it's. Everything I shared today speaks to the work that I'm doing, but so does that book. I'm like, what? Right. That book is exactly, a further affirming. Thank you, Brene Brown. No, she for affirming the Let Your Light Shine movement. No.
That's great. Well, Pam, it's been an honor to visit with you. Thank you so much for your presence today, your being here with us, and sharing with us what your purpose is, how you personalizing your work to help others, and of course, this incredible partnership and community you've built and continue to build. I am so proud to know you, and even more honored to know that you are a friend. I like to call you a friend, and one that has been an inspiration because of what you're doing. And this, Let Your Light Shine movement is just and the latest example of all the great work that you do in the world. Thank you so much. And now,
thank you, Dr. Tetteh. Likewise.
Yes. How do people get in touch with you? How do they find you online? How do they follow the movement? How do they get in touch with you? What's the way that they can best reach out?
One Stop Shop is my website, and that's KimONeillCoaching.com. And for anybody listening to this, ONeill is spelled ONeill. So KimONeillCoaching.com. It's got links to the movement, to my social media pages for the show, the coaching, and the movement. It's all right there.
That's awesome. Well, we'll make sure we have that in the highlight notes for the podcast. And again, it's been an honor. Thank you so much, and thank you for sharing so much of yourself with this audience, but more importantly with the world. Thank you so much, Kim.
Thank you. I appreciate Dr. Tetteh.
All right. Okay.